Well, on the other boats I've recarpeted, the gunnel was split right here. It was two pieces where all the wires comes out. But this one is not split. So what I'm doing is I'm labeling everything and separating them at the plugs like that. And these three right here, I'm just going to cut them and match the wires, recrimp them later so that I can slide the steering cable and everything straight towards the bow of the boat and out of this hole, and then I'll rerun it whenever I get this piece recarpeted and put on there. So that's the plan, and I thought I'd probably better get a little video on that so I couldn't make any bad mistakes. So let me get to doing it. Alright, this red wire right here is the bow sonar, which I don't use that because I've got a battery up there for the live scope system. But I am going to label it and put it back together. But anyway, it has to come off also. Alright, these three right here, I could take them loose off the gauges, but they are color coded and it's easiest just to cut them right here and they'll all go back together the right way. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, this is the main floor. It's a storage hatch. Anyway, I've got a screw set in all the holes where screws go, and I have a rivet set in all the holes where the rivets go. And this is just pretty much for reference. And you have to mark all these holes before you actually put it together, because there's no way you're going to find these once you put the carpet on it and set it down. So the way I mark it is I turn the piece upside down with the carpet on it, and I use a regular soldering iron. Let me get a picture of it. I get the soldering iron hot, and then I just push it through every hole from the back side, and that marks all the holes. And so then before I snap in any of the rivets, I'm going to put every rivet in and find every hole underneath. So every hole has got either a rivet or a screw in it. And then I'm going to start putting them, setting the screws and setting the rivets. Now there are other ways. This is just the way I do it. I don't know any other way to find every hole. At the factory, they put it on and they drill the hole and put the screw or the rivet in right then. They don't do it like this. And my filming this is just to get a reference for me where everything is at. So I'm going to film over the whole surface with either the drill or the rivet stuck in a hole. and then I'll be able to put it together accurately. Now, when you're doing this, many of the screw holes they will have been stripped out during the manufacture of the boat, as I found this one, a lot of them were. So you'll have to buy the next size up on screws, or use a rivet when you go to putting it back together. Anyway, this ought to be enough video for me to be able to find all the holes. So now I've got to take all these rivets and screws out. I have to turn it over. I've got this piece right here that has to be glued on the underside, and then these pieces here where that goes over that hatch. So I will be back in a while. Well, good morning. Well, it's back to work on the boat, and the point I'm at now is pulling the new wire. Here is the new wire to the front of the boat through this little bitty conduit right here that it doesn't want to go through. So I just went and got some soap. I'm going to try to soap it. Here is the factory wire. Here's what I'm going to install. What I am installing is the trolling motor's recommended gauge wire for that particular trolling motor. What the factory installed was what was the least expensive they could run and have it still work. So I've got it down into the engine compartment pretty easily, and up here I had to chip the poured flotation foam out of the track where it goes. It'll go back up and in through here, and I'll have to mix up some more flotation and pour in there to make that solid again. So I'm hoping that the glue is going to make a difference. So let me shut this off and see if I can do it. So I've got my nitrite gloves to keep the nasty off of my hand, the glue, or soap. And I'm just going to start by soaping a little bit of it, because if it's not going to work, I don't want to have a big mess to clean up. And it doesn't really act like it wants to work. See if I can force it through like this. And let me add just a little bit more soap, being as it's going in reluctantly. Pain in the butt, but it is going. A little bit more soap. Sorry about the dirty camera lens, but I can't stop now to clean the camera lens. And now I've hit a stopping point. And I can't believe it, I got the wire out the end. I need to get a couple more feet out of there to have room to work with it. Success. All right, I got about 26 inches here, and that's going to be more than enough. So now I just need to run it back through the deck here, out this hole, and then pour some flotation foam in this track, and that'll be a new piece of wire that actually won't overheat my plug or lose a lot of power in the transfer from the power from the back of the boat to the front. Well, here it is, time to put all the wiring back together. You got to get it all shoved in the right holes. And then get the gunnel up on there where it belongs. And then the steering cable. So, I think all I need left is the steering cable. Then I'm going to try to tie wrap some of these cables up. I stuck them all in a little wire race. Gonna try to straighten that up a little bit. But the most important part is getting all of it pushed through the hole before I start putting this piece in place, this starboard side gunnel. So now that I got this much done, my very next step is getting the steering cable run through here and through the wiring race to the back. Seems like I'm missing a power line, and I see where someone did a Mickey Mouse splice right here. Well, we're not big Mickey Mouse fans. Actually, that's from the factory. It's not a bad splice, but it could be covered up an awful lot better. So I'm going to find my electric tape and cover that up a little better. Alright, I'm going to like that a little better. And instead of tearing my electric tape in half, I like to cut it. It sticks a little better to itself when you cut it. My steering cable, the next hard part. And we're going to be careful not to get any steering cable grease on any of the new carpet. That would be rather counterproductive. There we go. That's in the hole. So let me move the console up a little bit. And this boat has a built-in wire race for the cables going back to the motor. Now, oddly enough, even though it has a built-in wire race, they had run a lot of the wires over the back casting deck. And that was one of the modifications I made while I had it apart, is I got all those wires underneath the deck, because I'm tired of those wires being up on top of the deck, and there's no reason for it. One of the wires is the shifting cable, and the two the two shifting cables, throttle and shifting, and the steering cable. Okay, time to move it. Console over a bit closer. So I'm getting all this stuff pulled back in through the wire race. While you are pulling stuff through one at a time, it all has to fit through at the same time, or in the same process. So you get one part through, and the next part, this part I'm pulling now is the vacuum line for the factory speedometer, even though most people use the speedometer on their depth finder these days. And you move this stuff a couple of inches, and then you have to come back and move everything else a couple of inches. There we go. I got it in the slot. And moving all these wires to inside or under the deck here in the back did greatly increase the amount of work I had to do, but I wanted the wires under the deck. Go. Now I just need to get the steering cable in its mount, and I can start putting this gunnel piece on. And you have to have the steering wheel turned all the way one direction to get the cable all the way in its housing, or you don't have enough room to do this. So I'm going to wipe the steering cable clean before I put it in its housing on the motor, so I'm not introducing dirt into that system. And there it is, with the attaching nut started up on the engine for the steering cable. So now I'm going to roll the console back over the top, and I'm going to turn the steering cable just a little bit to be sure, and yes, it works. So now I'm going to start getting the gunnel over where it belongs. Okay, I've got all the electric lines plugged in to the console and all the top screws in. I still have to put the screws in the bottom. So I'm going to roll the console back over the side. Now that I've got enough screws in it, it'll all hold in place. And I'll start putting the screws in the bottom. There we go. It'll just hang like that, and I can take care of the rest of this wiring and these screws. Alright, there it is. That's a starboard side gunnel. I got all the wiring behind it and everything that goes in the console plugged in that can plug in at this point in time. And all my cables pushed underneath the deck where they were factory, they were on top of the deck, and everything connected to the engine. So it has been a very productive day so far. So let me see how much more I can get done.